I am so glad you convinced me that the family car should be the Defender 110. It is so beautiful inside, it's so comfortable, and it just feels indestructible.
Yes, it really is. I've been waiting a long time for the new model to come out. The Defender 110, I'm telling you, it's my favorite car of all times. It's my third one. You know, I have stories of going off road. The guy managed the group. He was like, "What are you doing in this beautiful car?" I'm like, "I'm going off road." He's like, "Are you sure? Because you can use one of ours." And then they look like Mad Max cars. I'm like, no, we're going to do this. And he was shocked.
Wow. Well, it's great because the Defender has been reimagined for 21st century adventure, and its unparalleled off-road ability as well as its robust interior are invaluable whether you're headed towards uncharted territory or just a weekend of exploration. The Defender 110 tackles challenging surroundings with absolute confidence. The SUV conveys strength outside and in, featuring peerless technology like an intuitive driver display and an award-winning infotainment system. That's my favorite part, to keep you connected no matter where the journey takes you. Adventure is unique to everyone, and so is the Defender. Choose from the two-door Defender 90, the four-door Defender 110, or the larger Defender 130 with the ability to seat up to 8 passengers. You'll find uncompromising performance in all three. So pack up and go even further with the Defender 110. Learn more at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender.
Capella University is rethinking higher education. With its game-changing FlexPath learning format, you can earn your degree on your schedule and fit your education seamlessly into your life. Imagine your future differently at capella.edu.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show. Today on the James Altucher Show.
What is the real product of Instagram? And if you say photos, you're almost right, but not quite. Plus, I talk about some more of my favorite persuasion techniques. I talk about how to monetize and build a strong online community. Talk about Portlandia. Talk about Warlord Skimasks and the real reason that people hate each other. And also, most importantly, how to care less about what people think about you. Hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, topics, feedback for me, because I love all that stuff, text me at 203-590-8607. Thanks for listening. Well. Back for Q&A with Robin Altucher. Why did you I want to just say, Robin and I met, and then about 8 weeks later, to the day almost, we got married in the courthouse. And how long did it take you to change your name? Your name was Robin Samuels. You changed it almost immediately.
Right. It was
to the great, a much better name than Samuels, Robin Altucher. Why did you change your name? I mean, I appreciate it. I don't want to say I'm traditional or anything, but I viewed it as a compliment that you wanted to change your name to mine in a kind of weird traditional way.
Yeah, I guess I'm traditional.
We're in our 50s. We have to be traditional. I'm curious, what do you think, like, millennials are doing who are getting married now? Do you think women are changing their names? I sort of feel like it doesn't make sense for young people.
I kind of feel like they're not getting married.
like our daughters, would they change their names? I don't think they would. Because they've all seen their parents get remarried and have to change their names again.
Right.
All 5 of them.
Who knows? I don't know. John
6 marriages between us. Yeah. We one time a friend of mine was asking me for relationship advice, and another friend said, "Why are you asking him for relationship advice? Look, he's been married, he's been in all these relationships. That should make me qualified to give a relationship advice. I've learned from every relationship that hasn't worked out, and I haven't done anything bad. I haven't been reluctant about commitment or things like that. I've had good relationships. It's just for lots of different reasons things don't work out.
Right.
So, and you learn from the good and the bad. You learn from everything. You know, the times when you don't learn, the times when I have not learned is usually when it's the longest to get over something. So when I didn't learn about my financial mistakes, it's almost like a mindset thing.
like it's the fixed versus growth mindset when it comes to failure, even on big things like marriage or relationships or money. Like if I lost money and I assumed, well, I had money because it was a bolt of lightning, like a lottery, and now I lost it, then I'm not going to get out of the depression. But if I think to myself, oh, I had skills to make money once, now I'm going to learn from this, and I'll have even more skills, then that's,
That's growth.
that's a growth mindset. And it's the same thing with marriage. Like the times when, or relationships, the times when I've ended up like on the floor crying, which actually has never really happened, would be the hardest. I remember one time a relationship ended. Well, anyway, that's another story. Another story completely. What have you learned from marriage, from prior? We've only been married like a year and a half, almost to the day. A year and 6 months and 19 days.
Well, what I've learned in marriage is commitment and
What's that?
protection of what's that?
No, I'm just kidding.
Also, being protective of your spouse. I think that's really important. Being introspective and communicating with each other rather than having to go to a third party. I think it's important to be able to do that.
I think
with
that's
each other.
I think by third party you mean like a friend. Like, oh my
friend
God, you couldn't believe what she did today. What should I do?
Right, or
like,
even
that's
a
the worst.
therapist. Really, I mean, if you can work out things together,
Yeah,
that's even better.
I agree with that. Like, I don't like going. I remember in my last relationship, I would go to a therapist about the relationship, and it was always like, here's the thing. I think in general, humans are roughly computers. And so it was sort of like I would always go to the therapist and I would say, she did this, this, this. What should I do? And the therapist would say, well, if you do this, this might happen, then do this. If you do this, then this might happen, then do this. And it was like kind of like how you program a computer almost. And so I got tired of that because if you need to kind of overcalculate so much, what should be a simple interaction with someone you're supposedly, building a life together with, then that's too much work.
That's right.
Like some things are hard points, meaning like just because there's construction on the highway doesn't mean you stop taking the highway. It means, you wait for the construction to finish or you help with the construction or whatever. This analogy is going to totally fall apart. But if something's like, if there's like nonstop blocks, like there's red lights every block for miles, it's probably not a road you want to keep taking.
Right.
This analogy is completely like, do we need to plow this road? Like it's going to get sexual pretty quickly. So,
no, you're right. I mean, I think it just should be instinctive. It should be, it works best too when both parties are introspective in themselves, right? And step back and take a look at, okay, well, if he's doing this, why is he doing this? Or why am I doing this? Why am I acting this way? And then coming together. So all those layers should be thrown out, and it should be very raw in terms of communication with your spouse.
I think that's a good way to put it. There's layers. So each one of us, we're just really this collection. We're like a bag of skin filled with anecdotes, right? So like something happens and we pull that anecdote out of this bag and like, oh my God, after this anecdote happened, which is similar to this, then XYZ happened.
Yeah.
You kind of have to start from scratch. And I think it's really important to realize, particularly when sometimes it's a natural thing. Sometimes I want something from you or you want something from me. And I think it's important to realize that ultimately, yes, I care about you, you care about me, I care about our kids, they care about me, they care about you. But ultimately, people very much care about themselves.
Sure.
So everybody wants to have their self-worth validated a lot. So whether it's your boss or your partner or your children, when I used to argue with Josie about you shouldn't go to college, her self-worth was not being validated. She was 15 or 16 years old. She would turn around and walk away. And it was a horrible persuasion technique to just tell her, Josie, I'm your father. You need to do this. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to establish my self-worth by saying, I'm your father, you need to listen to me. And she would just turn around and walk away because I just gave her this enormous power, like me trying to convince her that I have authority. You can't just yell at someone, I have authority over you. That's like a South Park episode. There's, I forget the quote, but you have to basically, and not in a manipulative way. It's got to be sincere, but you got to basically find out how to communicate so that you validate their self-worth and without losing status. Like, Josie, I admire, what, you're thinking long term about your job. Let's look at all the different possibilities. And then, so you agree with, and this is a very important persuasion technique. I'll call it the agree plus one technique. So you agree with somebody and then you ask a question. That's the plus one. You say, Josie, I agree with you that college has been used for 50 years to get jobs. But why is it the case that since 1992, young people's salaries have gone down? Like, if you're correct and college is necessary for a good job, why have basically every year with inflation adjusted, people ages 25 to 35, their incomes have gone down? Just tell me that, and then we can figure out maybe there's something they're doing wrong, and that you could, maybe there's a particular kind of college or a particular kind of major. So you ask a question, you always agree, give them validation and self-worth that, hey, you're right. College was used by people. It was used by me. I went to college. But why is this happening? And so you just ask a question that doesn't necessarily prove them wrong, but makes them think. So, if I say to you, or if you say to me, James, we love New York City. I know you love New York City, but let's say things are not open because of the pandemic through the winter. Would you rather, what do you think the average person would rather live in cold, or should we find someplace sunnier or a little more comfortable? It's kind of the agree plus one technique. I think that's a very powerful persuasion technique. So if you say, it's very powerful in politics. I don't know, like if Kanye, I'm going to use Kanye West as an example. Kanye West, by the way, let's just talk about Kanye West for a second. That guy is amazing. And I'm not saying he should be president of the United States, or he should, I don't know. His party is the birthday party. I want to join the birthday party.
I love that.
When you think of that's a powerful persuasion technique. He doesn't, I don't know what a Democrat or Republican, when I think of that, I don't know what that looks like.
Seems fun.
Right, but a birthday party, I know what a birthday party looks like.
Yeah.
It's everyone's wearing plastic hats and blowing on whistles or whatever, as things that go out, and there's a cake and there's candles and we dance and my friends are there and there's music and everyone's hugging me. That's the birthday party. Yeah. Of course I'm gonna join. That's also a powerful persuasion technique, which is you take something that's very common, a political party is very common, you add an image, a word to it that makes it very visual, and you make sure that it's very unique. So birthday party is an extremely visual image, and not only visual, but it's like tastes and sights and feelings in my heart.
Neuroassociation to all that.
And the other thing is it's unique. No one has ever called a political party before the birthday party. Now, and then he did this, did you see this? Did you see this? He did this rally last night, Kanye West, and several things happened in this rally. It's amazing how much news, like even when Donald Trump, who's famous for creating news out of rallies, both good and bad, even Donald Trump doesn't generate this much news out of a rally. Kanye West goes to this rally, and first off, he says Harriet Tubman didn't free the slaves. And you even see in the video, people are videotaping him, and I watched one of the videos, and the woman was like, that's it, I'm out of here. And they left. He said Harriet Tubman didn't free the slaves. So, and then you think to yourself, is Kanye crazy? Why did he say that? Harriet Tubman, of course, is famous for building what's called the Underground Railroad. Slaves would escape and get to where she was on the border between the North and the South. And she would sneak them out of the South into the North, where they would begin lives as free
people. Well, here's the interesting thing. Everyone is criticizing Kanye West, but Harriet Tubman would not criticize him because he was right. Like, if you look at the history, just look up Harriet Tubman on Wikipedia. It doesn't take a lot of work. The slaves had already freed themselves. They were escaped slaves. So she didn't arrange for their escapes. She arranged for them to get over the border. She helped them get more free. And then she did, in fact, make sure they got safe and they were hooked up with jobs in the North, which is exactly what Kanye West said. He just said it in this provocative way, so everyone's yelling at him. But what did he do? He got in the news with it. If he just said Harriet Tubman was his hero, that would not have made the news. Instead, he said Harriet Tubman did not free the slaves. He's factually correct. Now, we don't learn it that way in school because school teaches us to be functional idiots, but Kanye West was smart. And then what did he do? He started crying about how he tried to convince Kim to have an abortion of North Kardashian, I guess. And he starts crying, and it's all over Twitter last night. Like, Kim, come get your man. He's just gone crazy. And then everyone's talking about mental illness and bipolar. Maybe he is mentally ill, maybe he isn't. Certainly half of the U.S. presidents have been mentally ill, like at least some kind of narcissistic disorders or whatever. But he wasn't mentally ill. He got in the news again. You see a video of Kanye West, one of the greatest entertainers in the world, crying like, I almost killed him. I almost killed her. Or whether it was a son or daughter, I forget. And he got in the news with it. And is he pro-choice or is he pro-life? We have no idea. He didn't give a political statement, but he got sympathy from both sides. And yes, he stated he doesn't want to fund Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is not the go-to place for most abortions anyway. Back in the 70s, it might have been, when it was much more expensive. By the way, check out my podcast from almost a year ago with Caroline Hirsch from Caroline's. She was also the producer of a movie about this group of young girls who figured out how to perform abortions in 1970, and they did thousands of abortions. They weren't doctors. They were like college students. They did thousands of abortions. They chose themselves to be doctors, by the way. They didn't have an MD or anything. They did thousands of abortions without one injury, fatality, anything. And they really were heroes. To be a hero, you have to go on the other side of people who say you can't do it. I'm sure all these girls were told, you can't do abortions. You're not a doctor. You can't do it. It's against the law. And they really were heroes for what they were doing. And they did save lives, because many women were getting these back alley abortions, were dying. They had a friend who had died. And anyway, Carolyn Hirsch produced the movie. Yeah. It did nothing. I remember she came on my podcast, and I wanted to talk to her about comedy, and she was like, come on, get going. And she just wanted to talk about the movie. But I've since performed for an entire 5 shows at Caroline's. I had the funnest time of my life. It's a great comedy club in New York City. I've also helped the GoFundMe for the employees there who were laid off. Go to Caroline's when next time it's open, which is never, because New York City is a disaster area. I don't know if there are any more shootings, though, there. But
I don't either.
But you know where there was a shooting was this was in New Jersey. Forgot the town of New Jersey. The judge who was just assigned to Jeffrey Epstein's case. So Jeffrey Epstein has a lot of cases going on. So that guy not only was a pedophile, but he was laundering money through Deutsche Bank. And so Deutsche Bank is in trouble because they didn't really keep... Here's the thing, what people don't realize. People look at the protesters and say, oh, these are anarchists. Get rid of these anarchists. Let me tell you who the real anarchists are. The more money you have, the more anarchy you can do. You're an anarchist. The more money you have, the more you're an anarchist. A great example, someone was on my podcast last week, and in the middle of the podcast, I saw this guy walk by, and I realized it was Dan Bilzerian. If you look up Dan Bilzerian on Instagram, he's got 32 million Instagram followers. He has all these pictures of himself with girls with bikinis all lying around. And I'm like, so he sits down, and I'm talking to the two of them. I'm like, where are you guys? And they say, Croatia. And I'm like, I thought there was a whole ban about travel to Europe. How'd you get to Croatia?
And Dan pointed to the other guy, the guy who's on my podcast, and he said, if you're this guy and you have a 224-foot yacht, you can go to Croatia. And so billionaires or millionaires or whatever are the anarchists. And I forgot what my initial point was with that. And so Epstein, the bank wasn't keeping track of all his money, so they're in trouble. So a judge was assigned the case. And what's really important is, they always say, if you want to know what the crime is, track the criminal or track the money. And so obviously, this judge who was assigned to the case just 4 days ago, if she was assigned to the case, if she really tracked down where the money was coming from, where the money was going, was the money coming from an intelligence agency? Was it going out to this charity run by this guy or this secret company run by this guy? She would have found out a lot of things that we don't know yet about Jeffrey Epstein.
And the people that paid him money.
And the people that paid him, and the people that he paid, and the people that he was extorting maybe. Right. Who knows? Who knows? Would we see Alan Dershowitz? Would we see Bill Clinton, Donald Trump? Who knows who would we see? It goes all the way back to the 90s. And so 4 days after being assigned to this case, a man shows up at her door dressed in a FedEx outfit. The door opens. FedEx truck, right? So it's totally a planned operation. Her husband opens the door. The guy shoots her husband 6 times, kills her 20-year-old son. She heard the noise. She was hiding in the basement, fortunately, but it was sad. It's terrifying. It's sad that her son died, 20-year-old son. And then the guy left. He didn't go in the house. The guy left. Clearly, this wasn't like a random thing. No. So, and then, a couple people posted this. One friend of mine, check out Tim Dillon's account. Tim Dillon tweeted about this. And then people were like angry, like, come on, man, her 20-year-old son just died. Why are you tweeting about this? Or, come on, Jeffrey Epstein was just a random, she has many cases. Jeffrey Epstein was a random case. Really? Like, Jeffrey Epstein was on a suicide watch in a federal prison and still managed to commit suicide.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he didn't commit suicide, by the way. I always believe the simplest explanation. But that's a high-profile case. And Ghislaine Maxwell just got arrested, so this is high-profile. So this judge was in a very high-profile case where here's the sorts of names that I mentioned. Trump, Clinton, every famous actor, professor, whatever in the world. The Mossad, the CIA, the MI6, Prince Andrew, yeah. So clearly this case is a little bit more important than the average case. It almost makes me think, like, who are these people who are trying to say Jeffrey Epstein's not involved in this?
And his girlfriend was a double agent. I mean, she was a informer for MI6.
She was everything for the Mossad. Like, her dad was involved in, her dad was a billionaire, a publishing empire billionaire, and was very much involved in the establishment of and the ongoing growth of Israel. Not that I'm not saying anything about that, but her family was heavily involved in geopolitical activities for many decades. And then for her to be just caught in New Hampshire, like, oh, I was just hanging. Why didn't you guys call me? I've been here in New Hampshire all the time skiing. What's wrong with you guys? Like, she just happens to be found in the most obvious place in the world. Like, she couldn't hide any further. But again, it's the whole point. The billionaires are the anarchists in the world. The people.
She thought she was safe because she had, intelligence behind her. The MI6 and
maybe she is safe.
CIA.
Have you seen a mugshot?
No.
We saw mugshots of Jeffrey Epstein. We saw mugshots in 1994 of O.J. Simpson. How come we have not seen one mugshot of this woman? Like, what? Where did she go?
She was giving intel to all these agencies.
We think
during the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, we think. We don't know. But anyway, that's horrible about this judge. But what it shows me is that there's nobody's like being discreet anymore. Like, it used to be something like this. Maybe she would be poisoned a little bit each day or something. Or I don't know. Like, the pandemic has just sort of cleaned everything out. Like, people now just say, screw it, I'm just going to go up to her house and shoot whoever answers. Like, there's no, like, obviously that's going to provoke a reaction. People don't care anymore, which leads me to Portland. So Portland now has an autonomous zone, the no-hate zone.
Did they just move from Seattle to, let's just go down?
I think in Portland,
Oh yeah, and then the Raz guy, doesn't he have like a new side hustle?
Oh yeah. So update on the Chaz in Seattle, and then we'll answer some questions. Update on the Chaz. Let me just see. We have update on the Chaz. So the guy who was in charge of the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone in Seattle, the newspapers called him a warlord, Raz Simone. He's just gone right now. Like, there's no tweets, no Instagrams. He was tweeting like 20 times a day. And the guy, he's not even in the news. Like, this guy let teenagers die in the Chaz because he wouldn't let EMTs, medical technicians, come in and save lives. Why wasn't he put in jail? Like, there's so much vandalism in that whole area. Why wasn't he put in jail? Lives of teenagers, black teenagers, by the way, are on his head, and he's not in jail. No one's looking for him. No one cares. So I go, he has a website. He has a link on Twitter. No tweets, just a link to store.razsimone.com. You know what he's selling? Ski masks. Like, who the heck is buying ski masks in the summer from a warlord? Like, let's start contact tracing those people. Like, what's going on? You can't even make this up. It's beyond the simulation is made by like really great game makers. So maybe he is in Portland, but Portland. Here's what the guy from the No Hate Zone says: Portland's a racist state because in 1860 there were slaves there. I don't know. And I always think of Portland as like there was Portlandia. It's the most liberal city. It's not racist. I don't think of it as a racist thing. But they've been looting. They've been rioting. Buildings have been put on fire. So of course the National Guard goes in, and the Portland mayor's like, get these things out. No, people are being killed again. Like, he doesn't want the same thing to happen. I'm not even talking about Trump. Like, the National Guard doesn't want the same thing to happen. Yeah. And people say, oh, you can't use the National Guard against Americans. Oh, really? How do you think in 1963 John F. Kennedy integrated schools in Alabama? So there was Brown versus the Board of Education. You got to integrate the schools. Governor George Wallace of Alabama prevented it. He would stand right in front. It would be a picture of him and a little girl who was African American, who wanted to go to school. Yeah. The governor wouldn't let her in. He was like forcibly not letting his little girl in. And so John F. Kennedy called the military and escorted this girl every day for a year into the school. So there's a history of using the military in cases where the law needs to be enforced. Number one example, of course, being the Civil War. Number two example being the Whiskey Rebellion when George Washington was president. So it's not an unusual thing. And we already have precedent that the Seattle Autonomous Zone lives were being lost and chaos was happening. And, it was only when the mayor, they walked up to the mayor's house and said, we're going to take over your house. Right. Within 12 hours, that Chaz was cleaned out. Like, nobody was left except the garbage. And Raz Simone is off at Ghislaine Maxwell's New Hampshire mansion and selling ski masks. Like, that guy's making a killing selling the Raz mask. He's got the name Raz on by the mouth. Like, don't mess with me. This is a Raz ski mask. I'm going to set up the Key Biscayne Autonomous Zone here. It's like all these people here. Wait till I get I ordered like 3 red ski masks and a hoodie. So no one's going to mess with me now. And they're from Raz Simone. I sent a DM to Raz Simone. I wanted him to come on my podcast, actually. No response. That's why I'm trashing him now. It's only because of that. So, what else in the news? Well, the virus, we have this virus going on. And look, unfortunately, we took the pandemic from New York City. Like, there's like 0 deaths now in New York City. And Florida, there's rising cases. Florida is like the epicenter of the virus. But I will say there's more cases than ever, but there's less deaths in the U.S. than ever. Not totally true. There's a small uptick in deaths, but the percentage of people who are in the hospital who are dying from COVID-19 has gone down from like 20% to less than 1% all over the country. So the news is in every way, except number of cases, which makes sense because they're testing, in every way, the news is good on the coronavirus. By September, October, look, I honestly, in March, everybody was here.
I said by April 15th, we peak. We did. I said by June 1st, it'll be gone. It isn't. I was wrong, but it's at a low. And it's kind of like almost treading water here, but it's in different states, it's getting lower. And in Texas, or I think it was Arizona, they stopped allowing doctors to prescribe hydroxychloroquine. So there was a spike in deaths or hospitalizations, but now it's down because they're prescribing it again. And, but, you know, of course, there's no double-blind study, so nobody will pay attention. You know, you're not going to do a double-blind study in the middle of a pandemic. Like, you guys who are sick, we're not going to give you medicine. We're going to give you a placebo. You guys, we're going to give you the real... No one... It's unethical for doctors to do a double-blind study in the middle of a pandemic. That's why they're not doing that. And so everyone's saying, there's not real science here. Yes, there is, but anyway, that's another story.
Well, there is a good, news about the vaccine from
Really?
Oxford. So, yeah.
What's the news?
Well, they found out that what they're using is giving antibodies and protecting. It's creating antibodies in individuals. The vaccine that they.
So they're injecting like a weaker version or a dead version of the virus.
I don't know. No, it's
I'm
not.
a virologist, so trained on Twitter, so I could ask these
like
questions.
The stem cell, like they're using I don't really know exactly, but something from the virus.
I got
it. You got it. Okay.
Yeah. So what they did was they took the virus cells out of a body, maybe dead, maybe alive. They spin it until it's a stem cell. They inject it back into the body, but it's still got a tiny bit of the coronavirus on it, creates the antibodies. Now, if the antibodies create immunity, which is still a little unclear.
No, they are. That's what they found out. So that's the news today.
That's today?
Yeah.
So antibodies create immunity, and this vaccine has a novel method of putting antibodies into the body. And that's great. So that's good
really
news.
Great news. So, and they think that it's going to be, I think they ordered like 2 million vaccines, I guess.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
So let's summarize. Deaths down, hospitalizations down. We were talking to a friend of ours who's a doctor in Miami. He said 2 weeks ago, the ICU was starting to fill up, but now it's going down. It's down 40% week over week, and hopefully that continues this week. Vaccine coming. That's great. That's great news.
And also coming from England and Oxford, so that's even better. Rather than from China, I feel.
Yes.
It's more, I trust them more.
Yeah, and I'm sure everyone's going to ask if there's like George Soros or Bill Gates involved, but whatever. And so that's good news. The other good news is retail sales are up, jobs are up. The economy is not great, but you care more about the direction than where it is. So obviously there's unemployment is much, in February, unemployment was at all-time lows. Right now, unemployment is higher, but the rate is going down. So it's the direction that's important. The stimulus is working. Will they do another stimulus package? I hope so. I think we need it. I think $2 trillion has been lost from the economy and only a minimal amount has been put back in. And yet we're still doing fine. What we're going to see in the next few months is that the earlier stimulus package is still slowly hitting the economy. And I hope they do another stimulus package of direct checks to people. And that will be an enormous surge in the economy. Yeah. It's a great time to start a business or to get skills. And again, we're entering into what I call the Great Reset. You need to develop two sorts of skills. You need to develop one of two sorts of skills, either hard skills that are technical or soft skills. Storytelling, marketing, copywriting, persuasion, creativity, or hard skills, programming, WordPress setup, YouTube setup, store setup. Here's a good idea for a business. And I told this to my daughter, who's never going to listen to me. First, I said to her, can you please set up a Shopify store? So it should be, Shopify seems really easy to use. I'm a technical guy. But you were right here, I tried setting up a Shopify store and I got stuck after about 10 minutes. And so I said to her, but then I gave up because my goal there was just to see how far I could get before I get stuck. That was like an experiment. So I told her, if you can get me over this 10-minute hump and finish building the store, I was in the process of uploading products. I had already made the logo, designed the logo, set up the template. Yeah. It was all set to go. I was going to put my credit card in. If you could set this up for me, then I'll pay you $1,000. But then I started thinking, Shopify is just one type of store. Like our other daughter, she has a store set up on Depop, right? There's another company that I'm an investor in, Poshmark. There's Etsy. There's Instagram, just set up Instagram shop. Pinterest, you can buy stuff straight off Pinterest. There's the Amazon Sellers Program. There's eBay. There's a dozen different mainstream online commerce sites. And here's the thing. Your local stores are closed and they're going out of business. So if you go to a local store and say, hey, I noticed you don't have an online store. You have an Instagram page, but you don't have an online store. Right now, everybody wants to buy locally because they don't want to waste the time, things getting shipped, or they don't want to travel to buy things. And they want to support local businesses. Set up online stores on every single platform. There'll be a one-time cost of $3,000 and then $100 a month maintenance, and I'll update up to 10 products a month maintenance. And then you know what you do? For store, and someone asked this on text. Someone was saying they have built up a community in social media and wanted to know how to monetize it. And I think this is a great question. So I was going to talk about newsletters today, but online communities and online paid communities are extremely important. And I was just thinking, actually, that I should talk about this. So give me 1 second where I find my notes on this.
These days, we're all investors, trying to be smart with our money despite our worst impulses. But at iShares, we believe that deep down inside of every investor is a better investor. One that's just waiting to be let out. Explore iShares ETFs and insights and let your best investor out. Visit iShares.com for more information.
You know what I love about fantasy sports is that even though I'm not going to be a great basketball player or a baseball player or a football player or whatever, I feel like I get to participate and make decisions and use my knowledge of these different leagues or these different sports to compete. So it's like I can pick my team or I can pick my favorite players and I could use my knowledge to make predictions and maybe even make money. So with the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League on Prize Picks. This is a league created specifically for combo projections that include two or more players from different sports or leagues. Want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, who's also been a guest on this podcast, and I've been a guest on his? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries for some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Look, Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. What? So, I love playing it. I love anywhere where I can use analytical ability with my interests to demonstrate some skill and maybe make some money. And I like the game-like aspect. I do wish they had chess as a category on prizepicks.com, but I'll settle for what they've got. Maybe I should make my own fantasy chess league. But in any case, I love Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/James. Use code James for a first deposit match up to $100. That's the easiest $100 you're ever going to make. So that's prizepicks.com/James and use code James. Daily fantasy sports made easy. The future of learning is definitely online. Like, it's such BS that you have to spend $200,000 or take $200,000 in loans and go to some fancy school when it's useless. It doesn't guarantee you a job. Most employers, including me, do not care about degrees or grades or anything like that. We want to care that you love what you're doing, that you know what you're doing, in some cases that you have experience or that you're willing to learn. But people in general love learning and are curious. Like the key to success is curiosity. And I think masterclass.com is the perfect model for online learning. I'm really happy they're sponsoring this episode. If you're going to give a gift, give the gift of learning. Masterclass makes a meaningful gift this season for you and anyone on your list, because both of you can learn from the best to become your best, from leadership to effective communication to cooking. Let me tell you some of the classes I've taken. I've taken comedy from Steve Martin. I mean, can you believe I can take a class from Steve Martin on comedy, or Judd Apatow, my favorite comedy director? I could take an actual class from him on writing. Wolfgang Puck on cooking. Dan Brown on writing, or Judy Bloom, who's been on this podcast, on writing. By the way, Wolfgang Puck also has been on this podcast. It's such a pleasure. I try to take classes all the time from masterclass.com. And whether you're watching Masterclass on TV or listening in audio mode in the app or on their site, the quality speaks for itself. It's like these Masterclass instructors are your own personal mentors that are going to help you reach the next level. How much would it cost to take one-on-one classes on comedy from Steve Martin or on chess from Gary Kasparov? You just wouldn't be able to do it. But it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. With a Masterclass annual membership, it's $10 a month. Memberships start at $120 a year for unlimited access to one-on-one classes with all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. So it's not just $120 for one instructor. You get all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. Boost your confidence and find practical takeaways you can apply to your life and at work. And if you own a business or are a team leader, use Masterclass to empower and create future-ready employees and leaders. That's the real education in today's world. So this holiday season, you can give one annual membership and get one free at masterclass.com/JAS. JAS, of course, stands for the James Altucher Show. So right now you can get 2 memberships for the price of one at masterclass.com/JAS. Masterclass.com/JAS. Offer terms apply. Online communities are a great way to make money. And it's very important. I don't really do a good, there's a choose yourself Facebook page, and to be honest, I don't do a good enough job building community around it. I'm in a lot of really good communities online, and the people are really helpful to each other. So let me just see if I could find my thing. Hold on. First off, everybody, how are you guys doing?
We're not seeing any of it.
Oh, we're not seeing the new things.
There we go.
Tony Robbins' community is awesome. I didn't realize that. But I would believe it, because I think Tony Robbins does a good job of connecting to people. And I've never been to one of his events, but oh yes, this is on trends.co. And they're talking about how Harley Davidson built its community. So here's the key. So there's a couple good communities that I pay to join. So Podcasters Paradise, I pay around $1,000 to join that. Actually, I got in for free, but the subscription to join that community is about $1,000. And I'm in a couple other communities that are free that I don't pay, but they're very good. And then I'm in another one that I just joined, Metal International. It's like a networking group, and I spoke at one of their conferences, and I saw that I knew everybody in there. So, but I paid for that. That was like $1,000. And I was reading an article on trends.co, and they talk about how strong the Harley Davidson community is. If you have a strong community, this is even stronger than having like a great newsletter, or it's side by side with having a great newsletter. Like, I do an online course about self-publishing, or I did a few years ago, and we created a community, the Choose Yourself Publishing community. And it's been pretty strong, but still not great. But people exchange ideas on books they want to write, and they write the books and they share them. It's good. But so if you create a good community, you can charge for it, or you can link people to higher end products like newsletter and courses and so on. So the first thing is, so this is a summary of like the Harley Davidson one. Create content that is only in the community. this is hard for me because when I write something, I like to let it out of the can. I like to share my articles with everyone. So it's hard for me to just keep articles in one community. But if you have let's say you're making a community around, parenting, okay? Right? And let's say it was your community. You would write articles, 10 things you can do with your kids if they're not going back to school in September. And so you keep that article in valuable content in the community, and then there's higher engagement then when they know it's only in the community, and people ask questions and people help each other out. Well, I'm using this resource or I'm using this resource. So keep content, make great valuable content in the community. Connection, and this is every community I'm in, like IDW, Metal International, Podcasters Paradise, even the Trends community. Whenever I join a community, I always notice, or whenever I see other people join, the moderator of the community says, "Hey everybody, James Altucher just joined. Let's everybody welcome him. And James, maybe describe yourself a little bit and what you're interested in getting out of this community." And another friend of mine, you have to moderate too what people ask for. You don't want people to spam a community. So, for instance, one friend of mine, Jason Gaignard, he has a networking community. It's the mastermind events. And every comment posted has to either be a give or an ask. So I'm going to give you free coaching about setting up a podcast. So people might say that. And then they'll list, their qualifications and you could contact me here. Or it's an ask. Like, does anyone know XYZ, I want to ask him to come on my podcast. There's no promotion though allowed. Any promotion is deleted. And so it's give or ask. There's no take. Yeah. And events. So the IDW event we're in, which limits its group to 250 members, every Friday they have a Zoom event where somebody's singing, someone's performing a monologue, someone's giving a lecture about what's happening politically or the virus. I often give talks about my epidemiology background and the virus. So member visibility, which is you get different people in the community to tell their story. So I see that a lot in the trends.co community, which is, so-and-so built this business and sold it for $30 million. Tell us your experience. Boom. And you can't get that anywhere else. Perks. So I haven't seen this in a community, but hey, if you're a member of the Stand Up New York community, we should do this. I should create a comedy Stand Up New York community on Facebook. Hey, if you're in the community, you get to go to Stand Up New York for free, or you get 2 drinks for free. So perks are good in a community. Courses are good. Swag is good. Gamification is great. I learned this in 1991. Before the web was happening, I helped build the Internet Chess Server, ICC, the Internet Chess Club. And gamification was everything because it was about a game. So your rankings, you would get just addicted to, am I getting rankings or not?
Yeah.
How do you think Instagram and Facebook make money? So Instagram, let me ask you guys this. What is the product of Instagram? I'm just going to wait for anybody to respond. Maybe nobody will respond. So when I ask that question, most people say, well, obviously, people could upload and keep track of photos. Photos are the product, and photo albums are the product of Instagram. That is not true. Imagine yourself as a farmer, and you put seeds on the ground.
They're saying ads.
Oh, so ads are not the product. Ads is the business model, but that's a good answer, though. Ads are the business model, and that's how they generate revenues. Instagram is basically an advertising agency, just like Google, just like Facebook. It's kind of an outgrowth of, it's like internet meets ad agency equals Instagram. But the real product of Instagram is likes. So
someone said that.
Okay, good. So and not even eyeballs. The real product of Instagram is likes. You use photographs to fertilize your area, fertilize your page, and then you're harvesting the likes. You're trying to generate as many likes as possible because likes they make you feel good. They give you dopamine. Your photographs don't give you dopamine. You already took them. You already had the experience. You're just uploading them on Instagram. And then what do you do after you upload a photo on Instagram? You go back again and again. How many people liked it? How many people engaged with it? Likes are the product of Instagram. The more likes Instagram has, the more money they make. So don't ever forget that. It's not about, hey, I want to share with the world this picture of me on a boat. It's more like, I want to put this out here, this fertilizer, so that later I could feel good because everyone else is validating me. So likes is the method by which you feel your self-worth grows on Instagram. And then how do you feel when somebody else gets more likes than you? And someone says comments. It's also comments, engagement in general. But I find that for myself, notice my likes and followers more than I notice my comments, although that's important too. And someone says vanity metrics. All these things are vanity metrics. But given everything, I'd probably like more likes than anything else if I had to choose. Followers, comments, any other types of engagement, retweets or whatever. Likes per photo is what gives us the most dopamine because that's an immediate hit and it's thousands and thousands like right away if you put up a good photo, if it goes viral. And so with likes as the product, here's the interesting thing. Who do you hate or who do you envy the most on Instagram? I don't envy like someone with 30 million followers because that's like out of my reach. I'm not going to be a Kardashian, so I don't even care. I don't care about Kim Kardashian. I don't care about some guy who's got 30 million followers. But I do find myself a little bit, I'm just being honest, if someone passes me in followers, or let's say they have similar followers and they post a photo and they get more likes than me on their photo, like we post a photo at the same time, we have the same number of followers, and this person gets 2,000 likes and I get 1,000 likes, I'm thinking to myself, did I do something wrong? What did they do that I could learn from? I'm feeling a little envious. Maybe I'm thinking in my head, that photo was no good. Why is it getting more likes than mine? And what's interesting there in behavior is that you tend to, and this is a weird thing given what's going on in society now, we tend to dislike more the people most similar to us, the people who are superior, competing or passing us somehow. Like, think about it. I have many more problems with, my family than I do with my neighbors, for instance, right? I'm not competing with, someone living in the across town, right. But like somehow your family, which you're similar genetically, you're similar in background, somehow you have more problems with family than you have with people who are completely different from you.
Maybe competing for also like attention from your parents or something like that too. And
so I think this is why people are not happy the more time they spend on social media. It's because suddenly social media flattens the hierarchy. Like everybody now, even whether you're Donald Trump or Kim Kardashian or you or me, everybody now does the same thing on Instagram or Twitter. We post a photo, we make a little caption, and we sit back and we wait for likes and comments and followers. We all do the same thing. The hierarchy has been flattened. And so now it's made us all, like, I'm not the president. I don't know the president. He's different from me. But suddenly now we're on the same platform. He's able to talk to me on Twitter. I get followers just like him. And so we start to feel competitive with everybody because everybody in society is on social media. So suddenly we're all like arguing, like people are arguing, like people who live in their mom's basement are arguing with Elon Musk about self-driving cars and spaceships. And, other people are arguing with Joe Biden or the president of the United States or a Supreme Court justice. Like, Supreme Court justice, I can't believe you just made that vote. Because you're suddenly like equal. You feel on the hierarchy more similar. So you would never call up Ruth Bader Ginsburg and said, Justice Ginsburg, you better vote for this. But on Twitter, no problem because the hierarchy's flattened. That's why hierarchies...
Plus, there's a lot of anonymous people.
Yeah, all the anonymous people...
They hide their real identity, which is such a cowardice thing to do.
Balls 656 will say, you're a scumbag, James.
I know.
And it's like, who are you calling a scumbag? How come? Why? By the way, once you defend yourself, you give the other person status, and they got exactly what they wanted from you. So do not defend yourself on social media. Instead, try the agree plus one technique I described earlier. Agree with them. I'm probably could improve myself a little bit, but let me ask you, what is the best thing you've done in your life? I don't know. But
how about not responding at all?
Ignoring.
You don't have time for
You,
that.
you know what the best technique is when I'm playing online poker? The absolute most powerful technique, and it works on social media too. I simply put my headphones on and listen to someone else. So, it's my turn again. No good hand, fold, back to listening to a podcast. Oh, it's my turn again. No good hand, fold, back to listening. If you pay attention, you get bored and you feel like you have to do so. I better play that. I'm kind of bored, or I better respond. I'm just looking at Twitter for a reason. I have to respond to everybody. But if you always have to diversify the things that are actually important and pay attention to them, and instead of being focused on the thing you're trying to ignore or to get better. Yeah. But this is the thing about getting better at something. If you try to get better at comedy, or you try to move up at your office, by the way, when you're at your office, let's say you're a junior, whatever, you don't get angry at the CEO if you don't get a promotion. You get angry at your coworkers because they got one, or they might get one, or they're going to laugh at me behind my back if I don't get one. So you're always competing against people, and you're envious, or you're not liking them, or you're arguing with them, or you're resenting them, or you're thinking in your head, well, I'm going to get promoted before this guy. I never say to myself, when I was at a corporate job, I never said to myself, well, if that guy could be CEO, I could be CEO, because he was 8 bosses above me. I wouldn't think to myself I'm just going to jump right to be CEO of HBO because I deserve it. Yeah. But I would say if someone got promoted, I'm like, I'm due also for a promotion. Where is it? That guy's not better than me.
That's how they say climbing the corporate ladder. You're just climbing.
Right. And the thing is, you're climbing it not by standing on the heads of the people way above you or way below you. You're just standing on the heads of the people right at your level, and you have to stand on those heads. Competition and anger is among people most similar to you. If I set up an e-commerce store, right? Let's say I want to set up a store just selling little books that I write. Okay, I'm not competing with Amazon. I don't care about Amazon, but I am thinking why did that Etsy store get more traffic than my Etsy store? That's when you start feeling resentful, and there's good sides. You could learn from that also, but it's always good to keep in mind, try to stay out of the hierarchy. Try to avoid being on autopilot where you just boom, 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 up the hierarchy. First I'm a junior programmer, then a senior programmer, then a manager, then a project manager, then a director, and then a VP. Stay off the hierarchy as much as you can. Or even if you're on a hierarchy, you're at the tennis club and you're moving up the ladder in tennis, try to figure out ways to stay off the hierarchy. Try to always have that playful sense of wonder, how can I learn? And the big thing is having self-recognition that you just put yourself on the hierarchy, having self-recognition that the people you're going to resent are the people that are at your level. So being aware of that helps you to resent them less.
Good.
So
it's a good lesson.
Good lesson. Good.
Good lesson.
Good. Thank you, Mrs. Altucher, the teacher. But the point is community. And don't hate people at the same level as you. This is why, by the way, I don't know how many of you have ever had a mentor. So throughout my career, I've had maybe 4 or 5 different real serious mentors, people I looked up to that I respected, even loved as almost like a surrogate parent. And I almost felt like I was like a surrogate son to them. 100% of the time, they ended up hating me. Because at some point you're moving up and they're slowing down because they're getting a little older. So suddenly you're starting to be a little bit more similar. The trend is that you're getting more similar. People only fight people similar. Now there's exceptions, of course. You don't like the chairman of China, but it's not like you're going to call him up and say, I hate you. You could do it because you're both on Twitter, maybe. You go on was it, I even have an account of Weibo. Is Weibo still used by Chinese people? I'm on Weibo. I have Kai-Fu Lee. Weiboed me out there, and I got a few thousand followers. Oh, wow. I got to get, Jay, why aren't we translating my Weibo my Twitter into Weibo tweets? Get working on that. Are Malaysians part Chinese? Did you come from China?
They are.
It's the Chinese went up to Malaysia? There you go. Did Genghis Khan unify them all?
No, I don't think so.
We only learn this in history 6,000 times, but history is useless. So, some questions I'm going to answer because we only have a few minutes left. Here's a question for you. All my life, I've struggled with caring too much about what others think. How can I go about caring less about what others think? So I've just described a technique, which is recognize you only really care about what others think when you're kind of in the same class as them, the same status on the hierarchy. So remove yourself from the hierarchy. No matter what you do, always differentiate yourself. Always say, how can I avoid competition, which takes up too much of my resources and my brain, to be different. If I'm different from everyone else, I don't have to focus on what they're doing. I can just focus on what I'm doing. Of course, there's the cliche, no one's thinking about you as much as you are, but who knows, maybe it's true. You know what? Everyone, when you ever go to a party and you don't want to dance because you're thinking, oh, everyone's looking at you. You like to dance at a party though, but I'll fake it. And you know what? Here's the truth. I look at other people dancing and I'm thinking to myself, that guy's an idiot. He should not be dancing. I really am thinking, like he was thinking beforehand, no one's really thinking about me. Yes, they are. I am looking at you right now. I am staring at the way you're moving. You've got the white man rhythm, whatever that is. I'm being racist against white people. It's okay, I'm Jewish, so not entirely white. But, and you're allowed to be racist against white people now, apparently. So,
you are white.
No, I'm Jewish is different. I'm Semitic. So, so the key is just try to now that you know this dynamic exists, try to even write down on your 10 ideas a day, what are all the ways that I'm different? Or, if you're worried about dancing, take a dance class online. My favorite is, I take these classes, go to YouTube and Google Poppin' John, and he will teach you pop and locking and waving and breakdancing tutorials. They're great. I love this guy, Poppin' John.
But the thing is that they're talking about everything, not just dancing.
Right. So, but in general, I'm saying remove yourself from the hierarchy and differentiate yourself. So another thing I try to do is, first off, there's a lot of things. Again, everybody cares about their own self-worth. Even if they care about you, it's like 5% you, 95% their own self-worth. Best case. So if you're always thinking to yourself, okay, maybe this person's watching me, maybe I'm worried what they think about me, but what they really worry about is they might not like me because they want to join the group of all the people laughing at me or I see this on Twitter all the time. Yeah. People say crappy things about me because then they join the group of people, like they think their other Twitter followers will laugh with them or whatever. It's only about their self-worth. So if you reward people, not for bad behavior, but if you just always think about the people who you're worried about and make sure you don't pander to them. You don't say, oh man, you're so great. You do a little research, find like, hey, I hear, you use the Benjamin Franklin technique. I hear you like Ernest Hemingway. Do you happen to have a copy of Farewell to Arms? I'd love to borrow it. Now you've validated their self-worth a little bit and you're asking them a favor. So the Ben Franklin bias is if they do the favor for you, they become the sort of person who does favors for you. So they become more inclined to like you. So there's just be aware that they're worried. The reason anyone thinks about you is they're thinking about their own self-worth first. So always acknowledge that. Again, you don't pander, you be sincere, but do the research so you could communicate to them and so on.
It's about confidence in yourself, right? So it's good just to humanize people. Like if you're worried about somebody, not liking you, or you're just self-conscious around them, you really need to stop and think, what is it about them that really makes you nervous, or why do you care? And then you need to really think about it. And are they acting a certain way? Well, if you understand why people act a certain way, like if they're rude or if they're just loud or whatever, there's always a reason why they're acting that way. So when you really understand how people work, right, it really does help you humanize people. And so then you're not nervous as much because they're just like you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I always...
Without really, thinking about, how to do things. It's just like you really, like bullies. I tell my kids, the reason why they're bullies is that they are insecure. Or if someone is rude and says something on my Facebook or whatever, I know that person is not a happy person inside. So I kind of feel sorry for them. You know what I mean? If they say something. So I just, you got to look at it that way and humanize them.
Right, and I think you that's true. You have to humanize them. I think the worst thing you can do is pander to them, like, hey, Johnny, you're great, or hey, Jackie, you're great.
Yeah.
Then the second worst thing you can do is try to validate yourself, like try to brag, like, hey, guys, guess what I did this weekend? I won the miniature golf competition in my yacht club or whatever. Like, the worst thing you can do is try to brag or pander. But if you do your research on them, you can find information about them and ask them about it, and that builds their self-worth. The other thing that's good is to completely ignore them, is to put on the headphones and just ignore them, because nobody likes being ignored, because again, their self-worth is affected. So they'll try to validate themselves for you. So, or you can do what's called qualifying them, like, confronting someone and saying, what are your qualifications? Hey, I want to, get to know you, but what are your qualifications for being here? Like, if you're in the workforce, or, let's say you're at a bar meeting a woman or a guy or whatever, and they say, oh, I'm a lawyer for Jeffrey Epstein. You can say, well, what makes you qualified to be a lawyer for a pedophile? How are you going to get him off? Like, so to speak.
You think that's
pun intended?
A friend?
So
that's not a very good thing to say, to make friends with
but
lawyer. I know what you mean.
True. I was making an extreme example. Make them qualify themselves for you. Don't try to qualify yourselves for them, because that's the status direction.
But it's basically, if you just sit back and just...
Probably the best thing in that case is to ignore them. You're Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer? Forget it. See you later. I'm going to meet my husband anyway, James, because he's home wondering where the hell I am, and I'm hanging out with a pedophile's lawyer. So we got 1 minute left. I had more questions to answer, so we'll be back tomorrow. I think we're going to be doing these probably 3 times a week. And then Friday, I was going to describe more completely about newsletters, and I'll go over community a little bit more tomorrow and how to monetize communities. I think what I'm going to do is every Friday on my podcast, I'm going to release a podcast called Side Hustle Fridays. And the very first one is going to be about newsletters. So I don't know yet if it's going to be this Friday I'm going to release it or next Friday. But thank you all for coming here, trying to build a community for these Q&A podcasts. These Instagram shows I'll put on my feed, but then also Jay's going to put on the podcast. And I'm interviewing Andrew Yang in 2 days. I'm very excited about that. So if you have any questions for me for Andrew Yang, let me know, and see you guys later.
Did you know that franchise owners are more likely to start a successful business than entrepreneurs who go it alone? Neighborly offers 19 premier brands with services that repair, maintain, and enhance homes. With Neighborly, you'll get the business model, marketing resources, and corporate support you need to pursue a rewarding future. Learn more about joining over 5,000 Neighborly franchises by downloading your free guide at go.nbly.com/podcast.